Okay, we're now in Kilayim Perek Vav Mishnah Zayin. This Mishnah is actually quite short, but it's a little bit confusing because there's a huge machlokah about what it means, and it's not entirely clear to me what exactly is going on in the Mishnah. So I'll tell you the way I understand it, and hopefully it will be as clear as I can make it. It says the Mishnah on Aris. Remember, we're talking about an Aris. Usually in our context, let's go back to an Aris is 5 gfanim along a wall. Okay, and we said that those gfanim along the wall had to have 4 amot, either from the Aris, either from the stalks or from the wall, etc., etc. Okay, so now the Mishnah says, what if I have an Aris shu yotzei min hakotel mitoch hakeren vekale? Okay, the Aris emanates from the wall, from the keren, i.e. the corner, vekale, and then it dissipates and it stops. Says the Mishnah, notnim lo avodato v'zarei tamota. You give it its avodato, the amount of space that it requires in order to work on the vine, and then you plant the rest. So when the world is going on here, says the Mishnah. So it says we'll read the Bartanura and then we'll see the Rambam. And even in the Rambam, we're going to see that it's confusing. It's not clear what exactly the Mishnah means. It says what the Rambam means. It says the Bartanura, Aris shu yotzei min hakotel mitoch hakeren v'kaleh. It comes from the wall. It emanates from the wall, from the corner v'kaleh, and it stops. Says the Bartanura. Kagon, for example. Chamir chamesh kfanim. I have 5 vines, hanetuot b'tzad gader, that are planted next to a fence. Ve'en machzikot et kol hagader. They don't take up the whole fence. Ela shalosh berosh hakeren mizeh, ushtayim berosh hakeren mizeh. There are 3 at one corner and 2 at another corner. And that's very important. Ube'emsa hakotel en sham kfanim. There's nothing in the middle. Ela b'shnei zaviyot hakotel omdot. Rather, they're standing in the 2 corners of the kotel. So, and I'll explain to you why I think it means this. I've got 3 gefanim bunched here on the edge of a wall, and 3 bunched here on the 2 over here on the other edge of the wall. Let's just make it a little bit bigger, okay? And I'll explain to you why I think it means this. Says the Mishnah, says the Bartanura. Notin lo avodato, shisha tvachim mikan, 6 tvachim from the first group, v'shisha tvachim mikan, and 6 tvachim from the others. V'zorea shara kotel, and you can plant along the rest of the wall. He says, v'af al pi she'en orech hakotel arba amot. Even though the length of the kotel is not even arba amot. So this is what the Bartanura says. He says the whole wall itself is not 4 amot. So therefore you have to say that you have 2 vines planted just at least very close together. I don't even know how you would do it. Or I guess like this maybe. Because the problem is that we've said until now that no farmer would ever plant 1 vine within 4 amot of another vine. Because they would be too close together. Maybe that's only in the rows themselves, but they would plant them this close together because they would encroach one upon the other. So I always assume they're talking about not only in the distance of the rows themselves, but in the distance from the vines one to the other. So one gets the sense that you plant 2 like this and 3 like that, and then I could plant, as long as I give 6 tfachim in the middle, then I can plant in the middle of the rest of the area. It's a very small area that you would plant, but I guess I would have 6 tfachim from one side, 6 tfachim from the other side, and plant in the middle, plant right over there. That is the way the Bartanura seems to explain it. I originally thought that it was a longer wall. It was talking about, 2 here and 3 here, and they were both sides of the wall, and there was space in the middle. But if that were the case, then that would be the other case. That would be Piskei Aris that we learned before. So therefore, the Bartanura is forced to say that this is a case where they're all squished together. That's the case that the Bartanura gives. That's the understanding that's the understanding. Let me see. Okay, here we go. That's the way the Bartanura explains this case. I'm setting you up for the other explanation. If we look at, let's go back to the Mishnah for a second. I'm sorry. Okay, that's notin avodato 6 tvachim b'zarei tamotar. That's what we said here. This is the motar in the middle. Rabbi Yossi says, im en sham arba amot lo yavizer l'sham. There's not arba amot there, which there isn't in the way that the Bartanura explained it. You can't plant there because there's no arba amot. The fact that these vines are in the 2 corners of this wall, I hope you're with me. That's the wall. That's there where you can plant. Rabbi Yossi says in that case, you can't plant over there because there's not enough space there. There's no arba amot in between. That's what we learned. Okay, that's the way we learned the Mishnah according to the Bartanura. I want to share with you the Rambam. The Rambam reads the Mishnah in an entirely different way. He says the following: Shnei kotlim smuchim ze lezeh. 2 walls that are adjacent one to the other. V'agfanim netuim b'zavit b'neihem. And the gefanim are planted in a corner between them. V'ha'aris yotzei ima kotlim mitoch hakeren v'chula. Its other versions are v'kaleh, and the aris emanates from the walls in the corner, and it vikula, and it stops. Remember, that's from the language of the Mishnah. Min hakotel min hakeren vikale vikula. Very interesting. Marchik mi karei gfanim kishiyur. You distance yourself from the roots of the gfanim, from the stalk of the gfanim. V'zareh b'makom kula she'en al aris. Then you plant wherever there is no aris. So the Kahati explains that according to one opinion, we're just going to do one opinion here, that the Rambam is talking about. Oops. Let's undo that. Okay, let's just select one. The Rambam is talking about the following case. Okay. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I have an Aris, so let's see if this fits in, because this is the way the Gahati says, this is how the Tiferet Yisrael explains the Rambam. And there are others that disagree. Let's read the Rambam again and see if we can read it that way. Shnei ktalim hasmuchim ze lezeh. 2 walls adjacent. V'agfanim nutuim b'zavit beinehem. And the gfanim, the vines, are planted in a corner in the zavit beinehem. So remember, the vines are intended to be hung on this wall. So now the question becomes, this is a little difficult here to drag. The question becomes, can I plant here, according to the Rambam? It says the Rambam, the way we learned it says the Rambam, in this case, okay, marchik bi'ikare hagfanim kishiyur, then you need just 6 tfachim from the ikare hagfanim. V'zareh b'makom kula she'en al aris, and you can plant anywhere there's no aris. Now, if you read the Mishnah this way, if you read the Rambam this way, that makes sense. Let's look back in the Mishnah and see if you can read it that way. Aris shiyotzei min hakotel mitoch hakeren v'kaleh. Right? You could read the Mishnah that way. It emanates from the kotel, from the corner, v'kaleh, and then it stops. Says the Mishnah. That is a possible way of reading the Mishnah. That's how the Tiferet Yisrael reads into the Rambam. The only problem is the Rambam talks about Shnei Ktolim hasmuchim ze lezeh. Is smuchim ze lezeh means they're adjacent to one another. It sounds like they're parallel or near one another. It's not altogether clear that means 2 walls that are perpendicular to one another. Either way, we saw 2 explanations. One, the Bartenura's explanation of the Mishnah, then the Rambam's explanation of the Mishnah according to the Tiferet Yisrael, and there are other explanations as well. But I think that's enough for one short Mishnah. Okay, if you have any comments or questions, as always, feel free to contact me at arisquilter@gmail.com. I will dedicate our learning to the memory of my father, Harav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman.